Welcome back to Legends. The Green Monkeys have proven themselves worthy and now have earned the right to enter Olmec's temple.
You know, not every day it's relived, but it's definitely an often thought that we would prevail in the temple, unlike our first attempt.
It all comes down to this. This is why we're here. This is what we came for. This is another shot at doing it.
I've been waiting for you two.
Oh, I love it. But before we let them loose to retrieve the 10,000-year pearl necklace from Rama, Olmec, tell us how the story ends.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society.
Oh, joy!
Let's rock.
It makes me wanna fart!
Dear Journal, it's me, Doug.
You have it!
Baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
That was a hoot!
On your mark. Get set.
Oh, here it goes!
Cool. My thoughts on the Temple games for this is that I found it really difficult to follow, like when they did the split screen of the mountain, who was like winning, because Kirk had mentioned like the direction so fast. I was like, wait, you have to put pegs in and then you have to go down and go up and then you have to put it on the top. Like, it's not, something about it just didn't quite add up to me. So it was hard to tell who won unless like they just had announced it. Did you feel the same way when you were going up that mountain?
Yeah. Oh, as far as going up, like I literally was just trying to like survive. You heard the music and him in the background, but to your point, yeah, just to that's why he had to reshoot that commentary, because even he was getting mixed up with sure, you had the vantage point on the top camera with the confetti, but from where he could see it, it's just confetti coming out, not knowing which side of the mountain it was. So even for him, it was definitely a difficult one to see, which is why he had to re-record his commentary for it as though he saw it.
Yeah. There's a lot of editing challenges.
Yeah, like it definitely does. Maybe it looks weird to your eye when you watch it as like a outside of it, but when you know it, like you definitely see the edit points, and it's done well. But it's the interesting thing of that kind of television where they just make it work, and you can tell it's an edit, but it works to the usual, the normal eye.
Yeah, just like when we have jump cuts in our episodes, it's like, well, as long as something's flowing, whether it's like images or our conversation, it doesn't matter if I'm like, I'm over here and now I'm like over here, or like, just not quite lining up.
It was for behind the scenes tour. This was the epitome of being able to go beyond the Nickelodeon
so
tour.
If you can't tell, Josh just wanted to be up on the set. Like, he didn't actually really care about being on the actual competing on the show. He just wanted to.
I could totally understand that. Like, I've had many dreams where I imagine myself going through the temple and I'm trying to imagine, okay, what artifact am I looking for? Or wait, is there a new room here? Is there like a hypothetical season 4 that I don't know about? Like, you have no idea. Just like Are You Afraid of the Dark, I have these dreams where like I come up with these weird like temple layouts that don't even exist yet. And part of me had a deja vu moment when I saw the reboot, because I'm like, wait a minute, they actually have they have 3 stories of the temple going on here, just like I imagined it would be. And Olmec's face looks really different, just like I imagined it would be. And there's like a bigger moat, and where am I? It's like weird premonitions.
Do you know there's supposed to be 2 more rooms on the side of to the left of the like where that the fall of death, like where you bust out of like the thing and climb up the ladder? There was supposed to be 2 more rooms there, but it was like time and budget, I guess, stop. In one of Scott Stone's did a podcast, and he talked about that. And the show was actually originally supposed to be shot on location. They wanted to be like in Mexico, or COVID stopped all that. But so there was supposed to be the 2 other rooms on the other side. So
one can only speculate what they actually were. Because
exactly.
When you see the little like temple HUD in the lower corner, you see like it's bricked up like, okay, here's all these rooms that are like butting up against each other with like a thin divider, and there's just like this big chunk of brick in the back, and it makes you wonder, well, what's there? Maybe it's like a hidden room that no one has discovered yet.
Yeah.
But getting back to classic Legends of the Hidden Temple with the temple run of the Imperial purple robe of Empress Theodora, no sputtering included. We are very thrilled to see Josh and his partner. I think her name is Lauren.
Ashley.
Or Ashley. Sorry, Lauren.
Don't you ever get her name wrong?
He curses her name. It's like, Ashley.
I go into Ashley Furniture and just start yelling Ashley, and they're
Go
like,
faster,
"Do you want a
Ashley."
sectional?"
Right. But anyways, yes, Josh and Ashley make it to the temple fully loaded with 2 pendants, and they got to make their way to the mine shaft where the purple robe is being held. I think it's draping from the mine shaft. And
Indeed.
Would you like to walk us through that experience for our Slimesters and Gackoids, Josh, of how you strategized and kind of maneuvered and what you did when you encountered temple guards, that sort of thing?
Indeed. Yeah, that was a geeky out moment when Olmec said my name. When I put the mouth guard in, that's actually not my mouth guard. I couldn't find my mouth guard, and the Orange Iguanas had left his mouth guard after the temple games. So that's his mouth guard I'm wearing, dry heaving at the temple gates.
I guess it isn't an orange slice like I thought it would be.
Indeed. It was sour in the worst way. Tastes like Cheez-Its and braces.
Ooh. I'm so sorry.
Just going into the temple, it was crazy. We had agreed that Daddy Longlegs, Tall Josh would go second, so we thought Ashley would quickly be able to unlock the doors. And you could even hear from Kirk's commentary, it wasn't quick enough for sure.
There she goes. There goes Ashley. Which way is she heading? Which door's open? Straight ahead. She's gonna have to move. You want to move fast, Ashley. Now she's gonna get a key and open one of the doors. You're gonna have to move, Ashley. Move. Minute 38. She'll have to put the monkey together. That'll take a little bit of time, and she's going to have to move fast.
That's got to be hard to try to give entertaining commentary and yell at a kid at the same time.
Right.
But he did well. Yeah, it's crazy. But once again, just like the other parts of the day, you hear the music, you hear the audience. So it's like being on the show or watching the show, I should say, but just so surreal. Temple guards, they pre-hid them for us with our back to the temple, so they do that even in an official legal kind of game show way. It's surreal. Once again, just the word surreal. It's one of those things, just like what you said about the set and the newest Legends of the Hidden Temple. It's just like a dream.
Yeah,
I'm just like, wow, I've seen this. It looks so different but the same.
Right, like watching it on TV versus being in it.
I was just making a point about the silver monkey, or Shrine of the Silver Monkey, because it's obviously the most talked about thing. Both him and I, he's done it twice, but like we both did it back in the 90s. And people are always, it's the biggest thing that people obviously talk about. And the fact that they say, oh, it's just a 3-piece puzzle, but first and foremost, like I said, when I did it first, you'll see when I went in the room, I was actually looking in the cabinets for the monkey. I didn't even I actually literally
like a real monkey
cabinets, yeah, like down in the bottom, and then realize they were the top. But when you're trying to like assemble that thing, the only thing I can compare it to for anybody who's ever like, I don't understand, the kids can't put the stupid monkey together, is that if you've ever tried to parallel park with people watching you, it's it's like that pressure of not like being in that whole situation. You're assembling it facing away from you as well, so it's a little bit different when you're doing it in perspective wise. It's like you're not like kind of looking at it, you're kind of doing the butt. It's not terribly, it's not really difficult, but it's just more about the speed and the hectic, it's just like that kind of pressure of doing it. I mean, I didn't do too often.
It sounds very cumbersome given the added variables. Also the fact that the monkey's head is like on this 2-foot long rod, that just makes it really unwieldy, and a lot of kids can't just like get it in.
That during the tour he had mentioned that they're like, you just got to really put this when you put the head in, you got to push it down really hard, because I guess it had to hit the actuator, down the bottom. So then you could even like the Kirk commentary during my episode and stuff when he's doing it, they're just like they kept emphasizing, like, you got to jam it down, and like that's like they keep telling all the kids to do it. So that was like what sunk in our head, like like pushing it really down. But point about Silver Monkey, yes, it's not terribly hard, but under that pressure, when you're a kid and you're on like a game show, that you're going to do stupid things.
And then being on the show not once but twice, you're like, when the heck is this going to happen again? So we find ourselves trying to condition daily for this kind of thing. So we're always working on trying to put the Silver Monkey together.
That's your at-home training version, right? So you can practice and time yourself.
Return it to its pedestal to open the gate to the Shrine of the Silver Monkey. Assemble that damn statue if you can.
What I want to note is that actually Ashley, Josh's partner, got taken out in the Shrine of the Silver Monkey, and she didn't get a chance to put it together. She was just kind of attacked immediately. So then that's when Josh had to, cover lost ground and essentially go up, take the bottom route, and then go up in there, assemble the monkey, go into, I think, the Pirate's Cove, or the thing where you have to like raise the weight that's blocking the ladder, the elevator shaft, whatever, that hole, and then go down. And I feel like, man, they really set you up for failure in that run, because if Ashley was able to just plow through that styrofoam stone wall, grab the thing and get out, it'd be like another Mask of Shaka Zulu where she'd have like 45 seconds left on the clock, and that would have been fine. But I guess by season 2, they're being a lot more selective, a lot more strategic about, what types of grand prizes we can get out and how frequently. And if we need to like, create some dead ends here and there just to like ensure that these kids don't win on this day, so that we have enough prizes by the end of the season, since you shoot 20, 40 episodes per season of the show. 40, yeah. They had to be like ruthless with their design, whether you guys knew it or not. And I felt bad for you, but at the same time, I guess it makes sense when you only have so much resources to work with, that sometimes you can't give it to them even if you want to. So it broke my heart when I just saw you like hanging out in the elevator and just like, okay, here goes 25 seconds. If I could just jump down, grab the thing and run straight out of the temple, kind of, jump out the side, I'd already have it for Kirk. But
that's the whole thing. Some of the cringiest moments are those safety moments where the nurse is saying, listen, you have to, on the throne where you have to hold the actuator as the wall turns, like you weren't allowed to get up till it stops moving.
Exactly. And that takes up time.
Yep. And like any non-wussy, it's not, you think that I'm just sitting there because I'm like scared of the movement. And same thing with like, they think some people are sweet and think the elevator stopped on me, but it's me that stopped it because it's actuated. Mm-hmm. So someone at one of the forums had thought that maybe, give them the prize, the elevator broke, but it's like totally my fault. But it was those things though that you couldn't jump out because you get disqualified or safety issue type stuff.
It's a real lot to keep in your head as like a young kid, just trying to run through it in 3 minutes and get some prizes. Like they asked a lot of you guys, given the variables that were at place for this game. And it really gives you like the kind of perspective looking back at it now to like appreciate, all that you did. And like for the people at home to also appreciate you guys, because if they were in your shoes, they would be struggling too, to like learn all these things over the course of like a day or two during filming, and making sure that you can go through it without like tripping on yourself or like vomiting in the pit or like hurting yourself or anything like that.
It was so satisfying as a super fan to just be able to sprint and jump into the pit of despair and like be able to do what you see on TV that may stress you. That doesn't happen sometimes. So the prize, as corny as it sounds, once again, was just being there. Just
I hear you. I mean, your episode is just as memorable as Nick's, because
let's not get crazy. Okay.
I'm just saying you both came super close to that artifact, and based on the strategies, it's like we were rooting for you the entire way.
No. I think Nick, based on 90s glasses, failed high fives, and falling hosts, you might beat me out just a tiny bit.
So it's interesting. Like your season and his episode, and if we're rating, I'm going to get him higher, because it's like I appreciate the more thought out like games and like the moat, and it just it's more it's just better, but to me more entertaining. I felt like the first season, just like the first season of any show, you're finding your way and you're getting lessons learned. So it's very basic. Everything on it was very bare bones. That's why I can't really rate my own show, because it's like I see it as kind of like
they were pretty good at getting the legends connected to the games in each episode, because you'll see 4 of the same games per season. And in fact, the way it's listed on Paramount Plus is in the shoot order. So you'll see these 4 games in a row, and that's all the same shoot day in order. So they did a good job, I think, at season 2 of really connecting the legend to it more. Season 1, they did great, but since it's the new show, they're all like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to, they learned a lot between 1 and 2.
And also keep in mind that there was significantly less temple layouts in each successive season. You had like 9 different configurations in season 1, and they're like, oh, this is too much effort to like move all these rooms around or redecorate them for this taping. So let's just go to 5 for season 2. And then that was still too much. So we're just cut it down to 1 so that we can pre-record the temple run footage when Olmec speaks. And, part of me misses that like ramshackle kind of, roll your sleeves up, get dirty kind of charm that season 1 had. But at the same time, I really feel like season 2 strikes a balance between season 1 and 3 in terms of complexity and also visual appeal that really makes it feel like everything's coming together.
That's when they took the camera off the tripod, took the camera off the teleprompter, started doing more like Dutch tilt, handheld MTV, GoPro, like selfie stick kind of stuff, like season 3's running through the temple, and you finally get the POV of the contestant,
right?
Which they did for we'll get to that, but the new one, they did the GoPros on the helmets, which I don't think they used much footage from it in ours, but it was that POV that kids like wanted to be in the temple. So I think that's such a cool observation that two is probably like, I think 3 is the most beautiful with all the foliage, but 2 is that happy medium of like still season 1's cleanliness, if you will, and neatness. And it's that
you
fine
mentioned
line.
I don't remember which season you said, but there's like one of the seasons where it was just kind of sloppy. You can always see offset like a lot of the
season 2 like was definitely like a lot of camera going off, and you see the glass for the Nickelodeon tour, which in season 1, like I thought that was a 4-sided set, like they never showed that 4th empty side. And then 2, not to the downfall of them, I think they were just trying to be like wacky and in your face, but it unless you're really paying attention, it's just darkness otherwise. But for kids looking for the behind the scenes tour, that was like you would pause your VCR or your DVR and that and be like, oh cool, look, there's the cue card for a different episode.
I was one of those kids who did that. I always wanted to know what was like beyond the temple on the edge where like the last room butt up against.
We get so excited when we were there was an episode of, what was it, like What Would You Do, or one where like Mark Summers like pulled in his car and he comes in through Double Dare, he comes in through the back lot, and like we're like, oh, and he kind of goes in behind the set and like comes in, and we're like complete geeks.
It's like a mini tour of the studio.
And you see where Islands of Adventure is now, and it's just grass. It's neat seeing the backstage view of that. I know Mark Summers was really into Johnny Carson, and so Johnny did a lot of that kind of stuff on his show, and you can see that happen with the relationship between Harvey and Robin and himself.
Yeah, there's a lot of warmth and I keep saying it, but charm when those shows were being produced. So you just felt the camaraderie between all the showrunners and the hosts, and they were just having a good time. And I think that helps it, become so nostalgic all these years later, so that when we revisit it still feels like it's, just a part of our life living it back then, watching Nickelodeon. And I think, even Kirk Fogg, when you were mentioning the wackiness that was being introduced in season 2, he also tried different things too, like with the camera. So instead of just walking down the steps like he did in season 1 behind me, he would slide down on like this weird rope harness thing in season 2.
He repelled in 2 and then swung in on 3.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's even some instances like on the edges of like commercial breaks in between segments where he would do some fun stuff like, oh, I'm going to go jump into the pit with this camera because why not? It's wacky.
It's so cool. You could tell they were having fun, or like when it was later and that they were having a good time, or same thing with D. Baker making them laugh on certain readings, and that might be why they tied it to pre-recorded in season 3, because he kept messing around on the reads that he had to do over and over. Plus it made it easier on him because by then he was probably finding success. I think he had done Space Jam by then. And so his time was more valuable, so they're like, all right, don't worry about staying here till the end of the day, say it'll be Joshua's turn and to try his luck, and then you can head out.
There you go.
Star power, man. D. Baker, Kirk Fogg too. We love Kirk.
Both very prolific now, even beyond Legends. But we'll have to praise them a lot more after we get through this episode review. So for the Imperial Purple Robe of Empress Theodora, what would you like to rate this?
I give it an A. I give it a Splat Slip. The only reason I don't rate it as high as Nick's is because I didn't really care for the temple game that Josh had to do, because it's hard to tell what's going on visually. Not for the same reason that you had mentioned, but because you can't see when they've activated the certain countries that they're supposed to activate. And also Ashley's speed drove me nuts. It's like, please just move.
Hold on.
Yeah, I've got a child walking around behind me.
Is he naked?
No, he's got shorts on.
You better.
Get
This
rid-
is a
get
clean
rid of it better.
podcast.
The red jaguar gave birth to a shirtless child.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason that I don't give it S, just because those two things I thought were like slight little dampers on the episode.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because that's literally the reason why I give it an A as opposed to the S, and it has nothing to do with Josh or it's literally I cringe, and I'm as angry as people got about like the silver monkey. I get angry about like just go, just give it your all. You're there. This is a once in a lifetime thing. Just move as fast. It doesn't mean that you have to be light, just as fast as you can go.
Right.
And when you're just kind of meandering or through or just phoning it in on something, and I'm not picking on Ashley, she's a kid. Like that's like we put a bunch of pressure on these kids to like they're like doing it. It's a long day. We've been there. Like I said, I'll make them. I'm not giving her grief, but I'm just saying to watch it though. It gives me angst. So that's why I'm gonna
as a kid drives you nuts. What are you doing? Go. As an adult, it's like you have
as a
no
parent
idea
too. Yeah, you're watching.
You're
like,
these kids are on.
Yeah. It's like, well, you're just out there having fun. I get it, but then it's like, but I don't know. I guess even like my daughter, if it was her, I'd be like, go.
Believe me,
minutes, just go.
We all have that inclination to yell at the screen. I know I was a big yeller, because I couldn't be on the show, be like, I know exactly how you should do this. You should not go there because I know there's a temple guard that's going to be right there, even though you don't know.
Right. It's so easy to watch. And
It's more fun than baseball to heckle.
Yeah. I get heckled now by kids who people literally weren't even born when it was filmed, and they would just people will trash talk it like it's so much better. Like, well.
Go back to your 2020s Nickelodeon. You have no idea. So Alex is going to give it an A, and Nick, you're going to give it an A as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to actually do a little something. I'm going to give it an S, mainly because both of yours were very solid temple runs, and they're both up there for me. What puts it a little above Henry VIII's Great Seal for me, it just comes down to two factors. I liked the diversity and the look of the temple games that really sucked me into, especially with the cannonball one when you have to hit the 4 statues down. That's always like a nail biter because you never know if they're going to hit just right or if they get a 2 split and then they have to figure out how to get the end one. So it really kept me on the edge of my seat. And then, regardless of Ashley's performance in the temple run, she did all right. She wasn't the worst, but she wasn't the best. If she was faster, that would have helped, but at least she tried to push, the stone wall so that she can take a shortcut into the mine. But it really came down to Josh's performance. He gave it his all. He made steady, fast pace, put that monkey together like he knew it like the back of his hand. And, it was a real nail biter down to the very end with that robe, just like the Blue Pearl, the Dragon Lady, as we mentioned in episode 8. But for that reason, it makes it memorable to me. And when you go into S, double S, triple S tier, when it comes to these episode reviews, a big component is this memorable? Does it still stick with me today after all these years? And I remember watching that on TV when I was a kid and being like, "Ooh, he was so close. He was barely touching the fur on that edge of that robe." And just because it just made me want to root for you all the more. And I got to give it to you for that. So
I appreciate it. I wasn't sporty by any means, but that's if you want to see what a super fan in a temple looks like, then there it is at the very least.
Yeah. Heart and drive are a big factor in how I grade these. Cool. And Josh, would you like to rate it or will you defer?
Oh no, I'll defer. I'll defer as well.
All
I
righty.
appreciate your kind words though.
Yeah. Just being honest. We all love the show.
Yes. Awesome show.
Yes. So we're taking a trip out of the 90s and we're fast forwarding about 25, 30 years now to 2020 when we hit the Legends of the Hidden Temple reboot on CW. And this time the temple, Olmec, and just about everything here at the studio has gotten a makeover. We've leveled up and now the temple is bigger, badder, and more fearsome. Although this time we only have 4 teams competing instead of 6. So I wonder how that changes the dynamic of the competition. Going into it at the Moat segment, we have orange iguanas, silver snakes, blue barracudas, and red jaguars. And what happens here, as mentioned earlier in this episode, is that each team must string a giant bow in the moat with 3 strings to their correct connecting points, then emerge from the moat to break a bow and hit the gong. The orange iguanas make it through first, then the blue barracudas, and finally the red jaguars. Unfortunately, the silver snakes were left treading water, quite literally. Do you have any thoughts on going through this moat compared to like the 90s version of the moat? Because I know it was outside, and you actually had the complete objectives that were more than just, okay, cross on this platform.
Yeah, night and day. Like the moat, like there was nothing like like the original. And yeah, it was an actual.
Wait, hold on, hold that thought. I just remembered. So we're transitioning to. I forgot to mention, because I got ahead of myself, that this third reboot is called The 10,000 Year Necklace of Rama, and it aired on season 4, episode 5 on November 7th, 2021, and it was production number 125 featuring Nick and Josh of the Blue Barracudas. And to signify that, I'm going to take my shirt off again.
This guy.
Oh, even the silver monkey's
now
interested.
We're ready.
Get out of here, silver monkey.
You have no idea.
Keep it together.
You have no idea how hot I was wearing those 3 shirts for the past 2 hours.
Was it worth it?
Yes, it was worth it. This was worth it. Skeleton Shay was worth it, and talking about the monkey was worth it.
The Shaylaton.
Dead Shay. Yeah. Rest in peace, wherever you are. So yeah, going back to the moat, what are your thoughts of crossing it?
It was well, I mean, not to bring it back, when I mentioned like on the end, I was like, so the moat, Josh was sick. Like we had gone up to, like, it's terrifying that it's kind of outside like the moat, but even just kind of being there when we're competing, and like they're COVID testing us like every day, but like they're doing these PCR tests and stuff. So it was terrifying. Josh picked up something, I think, on the flight over. And so he was like, we held it together while we were out there, but competing and doing that when you're sick like that, like I said, the moat was super deep. There was like a lot of swimming. It was just confusing. Yeah, like the game was like very complicated. It wasn't like once you like knew what we were doing, but trying to make sure that it was a lot of emotion. It was a lot of stress because we just show up in the morning, drive up the road to go compete on something. You flew across the country, and you're like, this is like the culmination of like 30 years. And you don't want to, like, as much as you don't want to lose in any part of it, you don't want to show up and then just lose. Nobody remembers who lost in the moat. It's barely, mentioned. So yeah, it was much different, much tougher. Like I said, super quiet, dead silent, like filming. So there wasn't like a hype of a crowd, things like that. It took a lot longer. There were pauses to like, set things or issues. The silver snakes on the show actually struggled with swimming a lot, and some people lucked out just kind of like on the original. Some games had rafts and things for people to float on. Our game was one where the biggest challenge in our game was the swimming piece, where we had to tread water and we had to do a lot in the middle and do stuff while treading. So if you weren't good at treading, and people can like swim, and that's what the silver snakes did. They even said they could swim, they just can't really tread.
Right.
So, but there was a point when we were one of the pauses where Scott Stone came out and he had asked, he's like, guys, are you okay? And trying to give advice, like, don't drown, don't die. But, I mean, like try to cheat. So then they were having like the one team member, swim out more, so like do more, like pick up more of the swimming. And so there was a lot edited. It took a long time, especially after the Orange Iguanas had won, and then we won. And then it was after that, it was between the Red Jaguars and the Red Jaguars and the Silver Snakes. Both of teams of like actually really cool people. And I will say that like the whole reboot, maybe this is for adults.
Yeah.
But just getting to know people so different than when we were kids. We kind of like, you were kind of palling around with your partner. I don't remember really palling around with anybody else like when I was a kid, like very memorable. Maybe I'm sure we did. We hung out together, but in the green room, but we built real relationships with the people in the reboot. And because everybody was out there competing, like living the dream.
Right.
So it was all very, very edited, very not edited, but it lasted way longer, not 2 hours, but probably like an hour, 45 minutes.
Least, yeah.
Yeah. It was a long time. So very different.
Very intense sounding too. It looked like
Yes.
like having
Yeah.
to swim and do an objective in there. That's like next level.
Yeah, but way better than we thought. We didn't know what we had any idea what to expect when we were going on this. I literally thought, if you think of like the Real World Road Rules Challenge, that's literally what I had in my mind for what they were going to be doing. I thought it was going to be full blown, like they're like out in the woods. I didn't think it was going to be so 90s. And when we rolled in, and then all of a sudden they were given like the shirts, and they were like the 90s shirts at the khaki shorts, and we were competing in those. And then we went and we saw like I didn't think we'd see the temple. I thought Moat Day was going to be like literally like a river, because the way they said it was like 200 feet. I thought we were looking up like how to canoe, like how to properly like canoe, how to row, because we didn't know what we would be doing and how big of a scale it would be, because when they were talking about ramped up. So when it literally showed up and it was like, holy crap, it's like, it's like going back to your elementary school, and it's so small. It's like if they take your elementary school and blow it up so that it's
huge.
So it feels like a normal size school. It's kind of like what it was. It was like, oh wow, it's like Legends as a kid, but now it's like sized for adults, but not like sized to the point of where it's like takes away the charm of the fact that anybody can do it. It's not so it didn't become like Guts,
right?
Whatever, Ninja Warrior.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they took that attention to detail to still like maintain the heart and soul of the show without like just disregarding it, especially for the fans, because it really helps you like stay immersed in it, even if there are all these different changes, like the reality show format and like the temple layout and the structure of the games, and all the little details that really just add to it, not necessarily take away from it.
This was the only episode I ever got to watch. I didn't get to see it come out when it came out. I had just moved, and I was in the middle of unpacking and then trying to get everything ready for the holidays. I missed the entire season, and so I got to check out this episode for this episode, and I was really surprised, like you guys had all mentioned, of just how much they really maintained the integrity of the original series. And then to see you guys in this, I was like, man, I have no idea how far you guys made. I'm really hoping you guys make it far, and I was very, very happy that you guys made it to the temple.
Me too.
We're such perfectionists with the past show, and so of course there's things you watch that are like, oh, I would think this would be different or that different, but with the production having to go through the time they did with testing everyone medically and all the money that went to that instead, it's like I kind of try to keep myself from being too picky about the new show. It's like just so cool that it came out. Like, of course there's things that were great and things that maybe that would be cool different in season 2 if they bring it back, but it was great for what it was, for sure.
Yeah, it was a network. And the thing is too, is like, so, and just so you know, Alex, it was completely, you're not alone. Like there's like everybody out there, I see people like, they need to bring back Legends, but this time for adults. And you're like, well, they did it. And it's already been a season, but it's like, it was on the CW, and the CW, it's network. This isn't like 15 years ago when people had like a lot more TV. So most people don't have like network TV. And I know there's an app, but people aren't in the loop on it as much. If this would have gone to like Paramount Plus or Netflix, where people would stream, that's when people watch it and binge it. And the other challenge too, and I talk about, is like when you I think one of like the biggest frustrations from I've seen online from it was cutting to commercial in the middle of like the tempo. But even just in general, the commercials alone, it just kind of like
breaks the flow.
It breaks the flow, and we have to watch it on the app where you can't like fast forward. It's just people are impatient. We're millennials. We're impatient people.
They're also double length episodes, if I remember correctly. It's like around like 46 minutes instead.
44, because it had to go up to an hour. Where originally it was supposed to be on Quibi, where literally, and we thought that when Quibi was, the whole point was it was 9 minutes, 9-minute chunks, and that was like the quick bites is what that app was going to be, and Legends was going to be on that. And I thought that they were going to do like those quick bites as like, okay, it's like the Moat, like a piece of it. But hearing Scott Stone talk on a podcast about it, they were literally designing, and they were going to have 9-minute Legends of the Hidden Temple episodes. And I thought, wow, that would be
breakneck.
That's my kind of episode, like 9 minutes. And so I feel like when they have to stretch things out, of course, like they're going to add in, and Scott, and especially is so big on the Legends. Like he, like that, you're talking about the most passionate guy I've ever met when it comes to, especially to like his creation and his, like the hero's journey. It was his whole vision for this Legends in the adult version. And he really wanted to do these he wrote, or didn't write, but he, they researched and created and wrote out all the legends. And then that's when they were trying to get us to really tie ourselves to it. So you'll see, even in our episode, if you watch all the other episodes, like people will mention like who they relate to in the legend and that type of stuff. And that was really stressed on us, like really like own this, like the whole point of it was the legend was supposed to thread through the whole really thread through. It's like just like the 90s,
Right.
but on a whole different level. So that was kind of the point of the reboot. I don't know if it was, once again, the people with their attention spans and trying to watch the longer version. It's like it's hit or miss. Like a true old Legends fan sometimes just wants the, give me the action type thing. So.
And then the fan that understands they have to make money in an audience for today's standards, you understand why they had to go that sort of reality route.
Yeah, it's a very delicate line to cross because it's not
Yes,
easy
sir.
to be a creative in this day and age where everyone's attention is constantly like being pulled in a different direction, literally like every second, and you just got to do what's necessary to keep things afloat, even if it is put commercial breaks in or ads. And yeah, it does suck to watch, but you also have to understand what goes behind those decisions versus just like offering it for free and then being put in the poorhouse as a result.
100%. Or hey, look, I mean, I put a commercial in and give us 10 grand. I'm fine with that over a telescope. I'm okay with it. A couple commercials.
Yeah, let's head back to the steps of knowledge and continue walking through this very epic episode because, spoiler alert, I really enjoyed this one a lot, but I won't say how much. So the Blue Barracudas, I'm just giving you a play-by-play, but you can go more in depth about the legend if you'd like to add details, anyone. The Blue Barracudas answer the first two questions, followed by the Orange Iguanas answering the next two. The Red Jaguars sneak in a question, but are shut out of the competition as both advancing teams clean up. The Blue Barracudas drop to the bottom of the steps first, followed by the Orange Iguanas. Do you, just because my short-term memory isn't that great, do any of you remember like the specifics of the Hindu legend of Rama and what was tied to like the hunting bow and the necklace?
Well, it's interesting. So this was because if you think about it, the adult like we were shot over different days, so they didn't tell us any legends, but we did shoot the Moat, so we did know what our legend was about. We didn't know anything specific, and even at the end of that day, they said, "Listen, we know that you guys are probably gonna all go and try to find information. Like, we'll tell you this." He's like, our questions, Olmec steps of knowledge, is all based on our legend, because there's multiple versions of the story. So, proceed with caution by all means. If we can't stop you from trying to go look things up online or study or whatever you want to do, but this game is based on Olmec's legend and version that you're not going to even hear until you're here to compete in steps of knowledge. So that being said, we honestly couldn't even remember the name or what the legend was about. I remember it was like we were sitting there and I was in the hotel, and then I just started Googling because from our Moat game, I'm like bow, Hindu bow, trying to figure out, and finally I figured it out. And it was my wife, who's like a monster Jeopardy fan, and she said, she's a huge Jeopardy fan, and she and all the big Jeopardy people and James Hightower or the one of the big winners always talked about how he studied by looking at children's books and like the children's like education books. So we were trying to look up stuff, and I said, "Hey Josh, let's see if there's anything on YouTube like kid stories about this thing," because it all tied into, we realized it was all like Ramadan and it was all kind of like that same type of stuff. So we just spent like a day or two just watching just like YouTube kids cartoons about this like legend or versions of this, just to get some background, and so it helped for sure. But
and they were similar enough to get the bones of what was going on, whether it was a bunch of jewels that were dropped or this or that was dropped, but something was dropped to help find the way, so it at least all connected enough to relate to Olmec's questions.
And the other teams, it's funny because the Orange Iguanas, they were so cool, but they were so savvy too. And we were all trying to play it off like when we got there, and we like wrote down notes like for the day, the steps of knowledge, and we're kind of like, oh yeah, I didn't look, I didn't really spend any time, but they were doing the same thing. And the Red Jaguars, I don't know so much if they did or not, but I don't know how much it helped, but it was a tough legend. And but that part, that piece of Steps of Knowledge was so nostalgic for me. Like out of the whole
Even the way you hit
experience
the actuators was very reminiscent of when you did at Henry Davis Great Steel.
I've never felt like I was like transported back in time more so than stepping on those Steps of Knowledge with the sound effect and the thing. It was like, that was like probably like the coolest experience. And who would have thought that like being on Steps of Knowledge would have been like the most nostalgic piece of it, but it was like this, it was so cool. So,
and that was all unedited. That actually went as fast as it did.
Yeah.
Wow.
As far as the order of questions, Nick between the 90s and now just answer the questions he knew.
And, so it is very, I did a little side by side, like a video, and it is very reminiscent of like 30 years doesn't change a lot on how you play. And then people are also, because they even say a lot of the rules, like they said that, like, just almost like Jeopardy, like that you can't buzz in, you can't screw it up like I did when I was a kid, like you can't cut him off, like it doesn't work until he stops talking. So there's one question where they're like, oh, he was stomping on like it was a spider, and in like the Red Jaguars, and they're like, oh, we're throwing them a bone. But if you really watch it, you're gonna see like I'm bang, 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 hitting it, and then the second he stops talking, they just timed it and they hit it, just right. So they went to them. So
yeah, I think it just comes down to timing and somehow keeping the odds as even as and interesting as possible for that segment.
Right.
But it's really cool you got to the end there. I know I try to recollect some of the legend myself, and most of it just went over my head, maybe because I lost a lot of attention span over the past couple of decades or what. But I thought it was pretty cool how they included like these like lightly animated storyboards throughout the graphic too.
Yeah. And that was like a last, like I once again heard some of the, because I got real obviously after it filmed, like anything that anybody was talking about it, anything like whether it was like an interview with Cristela Alonso or Scott Stone or anything like that I was like listening to, and like he gave so much context to things, and then that was kind of like a last minute thing that they decided to do as well, was bringing like the graphic artists and to give it some visuals and things, which I think helps animate the story.
Yeah, it's a nice touch because it harkens back to the Moat scenes, where not so much in season 1 because they just had actors in front of like a seamless background, but for season 2 and 3 they would show like these Ken Burns effect moving still images from like textbooks or paintings, whatever, to further reinforce the story. And it's like, oh, this is a little bit different and modern, but I like how it feels like we're going through the Legend storybooks style for the audience so that they can get a more in-depth immersive experience of what this legend is like, and somehow make the connections to these little factoids about the legend versus just like having it go in ear one out the other. So even if I didn't retain most of it, I do remember the question about like I think is how many heads Rama had, or one of them, it ended up being 10, and a golden antler, so that's something. Cool. Moving on to the Temple games. This one, oh man, I think this was like a highlight for me because both of these games were very, very intense. Like it really felt like down to the wire with both games. And I find it interesting that the reboot did like a couple of tweaks with a lot of the formulaic parts of Legends that make it work. So for example, they add like a minute or two to the Temple run timer. And then for Temple games, it's like only down to 2 games instead of 3. But, they have this like different timer aspect of it where, okay, the team that goes first, the timer goes up, and then it pretty much sets a benchmark for the other teams to kind of compete with to see if they can meet or beat that.
We didn't know until we arrived. We didn't know that there was any sort of reward for winning the Steps of Knowledge until we showed up at Temple game day, and they're like, oh, by the way, you can choose who goes first in like the time challenge, which, I mean, of course, you have to, you got to go second. There's no other option. I felt bad for like the orange iguanas
because we're like, smart thing or look like jerks on TV.
Like, no, like we're here to win. We're here to play, and any advantage, we need every advantage we could get.
Blue Barracudas, you won the Steps of Knowledge, and you have decided to go second.
We decided to let the orange iguanas go head first on the challenge
because we're gentlemen
and strategists.
Okay, that more.
So yeah, like that was timed. It was interesting. Thank God too, because honestly, physically we could not have survived another game. Like it was, I know it looks easy and
running up that ramp and trying to coordinate putting the symbols on those palm trees.
And the other one making that bridge and those
the monkeys
boards. Yeah, like and those long boards, and they're so heavy. I know it's like I say that because people were like, okay, it was heavy. Believe me, it was heavy and it was exhausting. There's a point when I was standing out there like in the slingshot monkeys where I was like, I just want to be like, we'll go to the tiebreaker, let him go. Like, I can't breathe. Like I'm exhausted.
Yeah, because everything out there is that dust, that desert
We're
kind of
breathing
dust.
in. He was hacking up a
air.
lung at one point during and they like couldn't shoot because he couldn't stop coughing because he was
And of course it's COVID
Right.
times, but I'm just choking and you're so self-conscious about coughing. You're like, I'm sorry, old Mac.
Did you have a preference for which temple game you enjoyed more of the two?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely. Well, now that it's all over, like in the midst of playing it, I enjoyed the one with the ramp because I didn't have to run up the ramp. That would have been exhausting. But
Right.
interesting thing about that is once again where you see stuff and people were like, oh well, Orange Iguana is clearly like they wanted the Blue Barracudas to win, but I'm like, what they don't know is like that there's a piece of that they don't realize and how we were more efficient with that. Even though she was flying up the ramp good, the rule was like you only had to like start to give a clue and give a first clue, and then by the time like as soon as you gave a clue, the person on the top was able to go down to the bucket and start going through, and then you could still yell more like while they're going through the bucket.
Right.
So the difference between what they did and what we did and how we were able to pull that off, even though they were, I think, no offense, more efficient on the running up and down the ramp, was the fact that we were as soon as we were up there and Josh got up there and I would yell a clue, Josh immediately turned and ran down, where I think they just spent a little bit more time communicating at the top of the ramp. So like it just like that's where we picked up the time there. But it was fun. I mean, there's like they're both fun. Looking back, I do like the monkey. My daughter liked watching us fire the monkeys, and it was definitely
It's fun to get the slingshots back in
Cool.
action again.
Yeah, they did a fun little edit on the end, like when we caught the last one, like trying to make it a little dramatic and fun. So
That was the best part, is just seeing the editing of all them
having
so much
fun.
footage of like, because you've already played the game when you're being interviewed about things, but you have to talk about it as though you haven't yet. And so that was a fun little study on, I mean, we knew that's kind of how it worked, but it was still an interesting study on how it all, seeing it, how it all came together when we finally watched it.
We had, it was the most terrifying thing, even more so terrifying for like our wives, is like how they would portray us, how we would look. Would we look embarrassing? Would we look like jerks? We look at, and that was terrifying for the amount of time from when we shot it to when they aired it. In fact, on the Moat, it's kind of the Silver Snakes, who were like this couple, once again, coolest people, and he was telling me this great story when we were filming that day, and he was like, listen, I told my partner, he's like, don't sweat the like the Moat, the physical stuff. We really want to excel on the steps of knowledge, because there's not, there's enough, strong African American men competing out there, but it's mostly physical. We want to really shine on the mental. And it was like a really great story telling. And then but then like when we're like competing and stuff, they were like fitness guys, so they actually rolled up their sleeves, which means the old school 90s. I'm like, I don't know if you can do that. So plus, me being out of shape. So then when we beat them, of course, we're all pumped up and we want to be funny. So I was like, I didn't think I'd do, because I was gonna like do the thing where I have my sleeves. I'm like, looks like we won, but I don't even know if I did it. But I was joking about the fact of they could have like I had this trauma. Yeah, I had this drama. Like they would like show an interview of them telling that beautiful story about how they wanted to excel and like the steps of knowledge, and then they would just cut to me like with my sleeves rolled up, like mocking them or something. like they could have made us look so bad, but they kept us so true and saw the humor and like us. I would say, it's cool. I saw something where somebody said like, like we didn't take ourselves seriously, but we took the game seriously, which I thought is a good way to say it. It's like and I'm glad they didn't show us trying to make us look like we're taking ourselves too seriously. We know we're old. We know that we look, we're like, you're back from, having a midlife crisis or grasping onto our youth, but we fine with that.
Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite.
We're there to have a blast, and they portrayed us like that, and then they had fun. Like I thought it came out like, for the most part, like even the interviews and stuff, I was cringing because I was like, oh, how are they gonna look? And I was like, I thought it was done in an entertaining way.
Yeah, they definitely did it with a lot of tender love and care, because I was rooting for you guys the entire time. Like we were both like really relating to your story and just, being a little bit goofy, but also very determined. And it just made it just all the more immersive, because it felt like we were vicariously competing through you as a result.
No.
So don't worry, there's nothing cringeworthy, at least what we saw that was portrayed. And sometimes we even think about that when we do our Splat Attack episodes, because, you know, these are on YouTube with like episode 7 onward. Previous to that, it's like just audio and some little animation. But yeah, it's just something you kind of pick up on as you do more and more, is how to like find that natural state of balance, so you can feel like you're yourself without being like too rigid based on like all the parameters that you have to follow. And even myself with the notes, you know, I'm always learning new things. Like, just it's okay to go off script if you feel like, you know, it feels more natural to talk about this or that. So
when I pull you on tangents.
Yeah, exactly. As Phil Morse said in episode 13, we are the traffic cops. We're not the stars of the show. So it's our job to make our guests look good.
Which means you are the stars.
Yes.
Well, it was interesting when we auditioned and we were talking to the you know, like casting people and stuff, and they were actually really cool. They're like, you know, but the one thing we said, we're like, you know, it's interesting. We're going to go on. It's like people are either going to probably root for us because they think it's cool that we're on the original and how awesome is that, or they're going to go against us. Be like, oh, those guys are, you know, they've had their shot. You know, they should let somebody else on. But I'm like, love us or hate us, you know, like they're going to have an opinion. Like that was kind of, if you're watching it as a fan from the original, and that was like the biggest thing, was like, we're like, I don't know how people would react to us and whether or not they were rooting for us, but I'm just glad that because they talk to you in those interviews, and they have a lot to pull from. And sometimes I remember at one point I even said like, well, you know, because they're like, oh, who, you know, got to beat them. I'm like, well, you know, we don't have to beat anybody. They have to beat us. We're competing against all the people, the age group who have talked trash for, you know, 20 years, saying how they would kick, you know, they those kids sucked and we do so much better.
The true villain of the story.
And we're not in our prime like you guys. Like, beat us. That's all you have to do. So I'm glad they didn't show too much of that, because they were like, we didn't want to come off cocky, but it was a little true though. Like, we're like, come on, we're the guys that you got to beat that you've been talking about. And that was a smooth tip that you gave with the slingshot too, because you said don't get them crossed. That was exactly the problem that the orange iguanas had.
The slingshot is the thing that keeps tripping us up. It's like tied a little different on both sides, so you think you're doing it the center, but then it goes one way because like that side is tighter. Untwist the slingshot, untwist the slingshot. And then I realized it's twisted. So it's like, you're like, untwisted.
When you go and you scope out your competition the first day, that was the scariest thing, seeing the orange iguana girl being like an encyclopedia for every single. You can have someone who's tough, have the muscle, all that. No, this girl being more obsessed with the show than I thought we were. That was like, oh my goodness, all right, we are competing against some people here, and we were hungry. We lucked out. Like, if you saw her after they won the like the Moat, and like just her like genuine like screen, like it was like, I love that passion. So it was so fun to like compete against them, because it was tough. They were so into it that it would have been fine to lose against them, really, as cheesy as it may sound, but at least they cared. And to lose against someone, it's like, we just want to lose against contestants who care about being on the show, because sometimes you get the, you know, maybe not so endearing contestants, but I think we were happy with who we had.
I want the money. I don't care what the game show is. I want the money.
I mean, as long as you walk away having fun, you know, that's really the true prize at the end of the day. Yeah. But before we walk away having fun, we got to go to the temple for the third and final time, as you face against Olmec in this new and improved temple to retrieve the 10,000 year necklace of Rama. So, how do you guys want to break this down with us? Like, well, it was similar to the, I guess, like I said, like we kind of mentioned it earlier, we show up super early. We were supposed to go like, I think like a 6 a.m. call time or something. And we were there. So we thought we'd be going early. There was, so we show up, they kind of explain what's going on. We're going to get the same tour and they were shooting all 13 episodes in one day. So the cool thing for us is like, no, we know who won every show, because we get to see the teams, you know, because it was kind of sad. Like, every day you come down, and then it was like, that was probably like the most like socially awkward day out of all of it, because like you've always spent the time like hanging out, because they would have you, because of COVID, like kind of sitting by like your tables of your episode, the people in your episode. So when you finally get to that final day, and it's only like the winners of the other episodes, you don't really know anyone, and some of them shot on other days, so it was kind of like weird. So
we show up, they explain that they're going to do the tour of the temple, break us up in two, and go do that. So we went on the tour. Unlike the first time, it was a lot hotter. It was like by the time we went up there, like the sun's beaming and the sun rising at the facing the temple, and so we're in there roasting. And that was actually one of the issues that they found out, and what caused a lot of delays that day was like the heat was expanding something with the actuator at the doors, which was causing the doors to stick because of the heat and the sun on the, like if you have a sliding glass door or something that hits the sun, it'll cause issues too. So that was one of the things. But going through and touring the temple, like I said, it was just like nostalgia, but overwhelming, trying to remember every room. The one thing I remember, the one room we wanted to avoid because we couldn't go in it and I had no idea what it was like the spider's lair thing. Like,
oh yeah, that looked intense.
And, yeah, they wouldn't let us climb through. We couldn't climb through it, and I'm like, I don't know. It just looks like, I don't know what it's like, and I would really
how much
prefer
there's grip, how much you would slip.
Yeah, we were nervous though because all these rooms were like, these are like full. These aren't like a quick little task like in the 90s. These are some of them are more like little mini escape rooms,
more
like
intricate puzzles.
Yeah, we didn't want to do the Simon room because we didn't want to really do a room that was going to be dictated more by like the time of how long it takes for stuff to go. Like we can't control it. You screw up and then you have to like wait for the thing. So we knew the Royal Rage room would be exhausting, trying to break it would burn a lot of energy trying to break the vases and things like that. So, and any of those, like unlike the Pit of Despair when we were in the 90s show where you could literally run across the bottom, it's like a little ball pit. This is like one of those gymnastic thing, which immediately as soon as you get in, it will suck every ounce of energy you have just trying to get through that foam pit out of it. So there are a lot of differences and things like that, but it was same thing, trying to remember every room. Although this time they did the same thing. They gave us the same paper map, which this time I have it. I've actually got a little memory box of it this time. I have like my shoes, like the paper map,
awesome,
like the mask we wore, like all kinds of stuff just from the trip. But so the map had it. So,
take a picture of that and send that to us too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So we ended up studying that a lot because we had to remember how to do all those rooms because it was a lot more complicated. So we spent a lot of the time from going through that tour before we shot, sitting at our table, just kind of strategizing, hey, if this room doesn't go, like, where are we going to go? So the thing that I didn't mention, I realized
we thought it would be in the Dark Forest.
No. Yes, the Dark.
The first day when we're recording,
that was the Dark Forest was the when we thought,
so we had planned for the wrong room because they didn't tell us until we were right about to shoot where our treasure was. So we were planning our little map around thinking we had like overheard something we shouldn't have heard or something on the first day because Christella asked, oh, where is the pearl necklace hidden? The Dark Forest. But because Kirk's cameo was placed in there, they moved our room to a different room. So as soon as we were about to shoot, they said, oh, it's up here. And we just looked at each other.
My God.
Like, oh my God, we did not plan for that at all. We don't know these rooms.
And it was like right before we shot too. And it was, and that was the other thing too, regarding what ended up being Kirk is like right before we shot, like they came and they said, hey, you may encounter someone or something in the temple. And if you do, make sure, hear them out. And I was like, oh, okay, well, is it going to be like a clue or something like that? So we didn't know. And then obviously it ended up being
none other than Kirk Fogg himself.
None other than Kirk Fogg himself in the Dark Forest.
What was that like, seeing him in the spur of the moment during the temple run? Did it throw you off too much?
It didn't, like it kind of like it threw me off to it. Yeah, I mean it did. I'm not gonna lie. In interview that they like cut to, like at the one thing that I'm still been shocked, and just in shock of the whole experience. But yeah, it completely blindsided me because, like I said, so just going back from like the beginning before I got to Kirk. So when we went in, like I said, busted through there, and luckily Josh said go, because I was gonna try to go up. He's like, just go down to the bottom, which I'm glad he said that. Like from the was it the Crystal Cenote? So we went down to the bottom, so we went straight to the heart room. And the biggest mistake I made, well, I don't know if it was a mistake, but we kept talking about before, even when we were going to the other one, we know they're probably not going to be open, but should we, what if they are, as far as like going up and trying to go a more direct path? And you kind of figure they wouldn't be open, but what if they are? So that's what killed. I feel like that was like the difference between us winning and losing, was climbing up and then trying the two other doors. pit of despair. And then speaking of safety, like that was one of the things too. I couldn't jump until you're like on the stair.
Yeah.
So like when I was climbing and like trying to get off the wall, which actually was fairly high up, but it was like I could jump, but only when I reached back to like
so
where
same kind of thing where the nurse walks through with you in the temple tours, like, listen,
Right.
you
Yep.
get disqualified if you jump from this, you need to land on that.
Yeah, because it would have been unsafe. You could hit a wall or something, I guess, if you did the other way. But anyway, so I
Yeah.
jumped down. That's when I went to the dark forest. And as soon but when I get in there, like that's when I'm spent, like I was talking about, like the foam and like climbing, like we went through, climbed up, but then you kind of get in the foam and that kind of wears you out. So I get in there, I'm already exhausted. And here's Kirk Fogg, and then he does the call back to the interview from the first one, which is like,
who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought? It was like so cool. And I love how they have like that, like they do this little 90s with the camera guy in there with them, and he's got the microphone and it was awesome. Just giving the high five, and anybody who gives grief, like, oh, you know, they're like, oh, that was cool, but you know, they would have won if you weren't there. I'm like, well, we would have won if we, you know, were faster.
Yeah, there were other parts. It wasn't all Kirk's fault.
Yeah, there was definitely parts. And then that's the thing is, like, once I got through Kirk and I climbed up off the side and then got back into the throne of the, like where I had the dress, was it the room of the beloved, not the room
Like
of the beloved,
Queen's Armory?
The Queen's Armory, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the room. That's the new Shrine of the Silver Monkey. That room is like incredibly hard, but then you're so spent by the time you get there. I never thought doing that. Like that was like one of those out of body experiences, because it's like my mind is like, Nick, you gotta go. And I feel like physically, like it's just the weirdest thing. Like I can't move my body. I was praying. I remember earlier I said on the first time I went through, I was like, please no temple guard, please no temple guard. This time I'm like, God, where are the temple guards? Like, please take me out. Like we didn't. And I was praying for a temple guard. And every time I went to like that room, like crap. So I'm going through, and then I've never been so happy. I could have hugged her when I went to the next room and ended up getting taken. And then that was crazy. Like there's a whole behind the scenes thing, the scaffolding and trying to climb down. And I was so spent, and then Josh went.
Crazy.
The temple guards look pretty different, by the way. What do you think about their costume design versus the original?
Yeah, Scott had mentioned how nowadays there's much more access to information, and so they did the temple guards in a realistic Mayan way, and so all the tribal paint was authentic. They cast authentically ethnic, national, nation, who they should for the role, whatever word I'm looking for.
Appropriate casting.
Indeed.
That's cool.
It was cool. I mean, but we're like, there wasn't like a jump scare. Like I didn't get spooked. Like I said, I was so exhausted and spent out. Like by the time I caught, and like when she jumped out on the first one, it was kind of like, oh, it kind of took me back for a second, but it wasn't like
the infamous one.
Like the infamous of that. So yeah, it was definitely different, but still, they're
weird, quiet, no music.
Yeah.
You hardly heard Christella. I mean, I'm next door yelling. I mean, you could hear anything that you could hear from 20 feet away, but it's not like the studio setting.
It's so strange thinking of like going through the temple and you just hear like a distant hum of the wind behind you. I thought it was interesting that they wouldn't like include those elements to keep your like energy up during the temple run, because now
it was all day, and we were so exhausted. I by that time, like 10 days later, caught what Josh had, so I was like completely dying. In fact, that was why I went first, was because we thought, we're like, okay, well, you can go in, and we anticipated me being slower because I was sick. But then by that whole day, and then it was hard to get like just charged up for the energy, and this is what it all comes down to. You'd think like it would be like, oh my God, it was like here, but we were just it was the end of a very long road, and it was the experience of a lifetime to do it, but it was also it was different. Like it's dead silent. Like Josh has said at one point, like it felt like a rehearsal, because like it was it's weird. It's really weird. Dead silent. Just hearing yourself breathe. Like that's all you're hearing through that whole thing.
Well, I mean, you're no slouches either. You ended up, as Josh did before, put the monkey together again, which has a different design, and you ended up getting, not exactly out of the temple, but you're right behind Olmec's head when the timer ran out. So, you're basically there, and I still think it's an impressive
like 10
run
feet.
nonetheless. Yeah.
There's a little sensor there. There's actually, they had a laser sensor like right by like that entry. So like even he didn't have to get out. Like all he had to do was
right where the temple gates open. There are two
Yeah.
little reflectors that kind of can sense when you walk by. That way, it's all still once again legal,
right?
By computer.
But he was gassed just like because like that's like the thing, Crystal Sonoda and stuff, when he's kind of like scooching, you're like, why don't you just die for it? But like you also
you don't want to hurt yourself.
No, it's not even that. It's like you just physically can't. Like you're
Yeah.
spent. It's just like that temple is too. It's too much to do in like 2 minutes. Like in that short period of time, and then just and being completely, a couple 40-year-old guys who were like,
that was when Olmec had told me I was too slow, because after we had gotten out, I ran over to Olmec and just like smooched him on the cheek, and I was like, why, Olmec? And it got cut, but he's like, because you're too slow. And then it cuts up to right after I'd run down the stairs. But so neat that D Baker was there live, and even if it wasn't on TV, we got to kind of play a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just the experience itself, timeless. I mean, win, lose, or draw. It's great that you're able to do that. Just a quick question before we wrap up and do our rating. What did you find? Did you find anything different or more difficult or easier about the monkey this time around, the silver monkey?
Definitely easier, probably, because the lighting was brighter. The hard coat on the monkey was... his form was there. On the show it's harder to see, but it was like a lot of chipping and stuff, so that middle piece, it was hard for the kids to kind of figure out what to do. I think more so the pressure was what made the monkey hard versus the actual monkey itself. Which is so funny in the movie, like the made for TV movie they did, and Kirk is awesome in that. They have that whole, even like after the movie, I think they have a whole like thing with the monkey. So I'm so happy that the show, although certain things had changed, knew its roots. That Shrine of the Silver Monkey, I mean, any search on the internet about Legends, it's going to mention that. So Scott and the rest of the team were very smart about what they brought forward from the past, and what they changed for the current audience.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. I'm just really glad that they're still blending the old with the new, with little bits of details here and there to still make it appealing to the demographic that it should appeal to the most, which is people like us who are just diehard fans from the get-go. So with that being said, what would you like to rate the 10,000-year pearl necklace of Rama?
I absolutely love this episode. Like I said, this is the only episode of the reboot that I saw, and I think the reason I like this episode so much is because it has two OG competitors. I loved the way the show was constructed. I loved how it had taken inspiration from old school Nick and put it into a modern audience perspective, game show perspective. And it's a difficult balance act, but they pulled it off. And I don't think I would have gotten invested in the episode nearly as much if it wasn't for Nick and Josh. And then to have Kirk Fogg show up at the very tail end, doing those callbacks, this whole episode absolutely floored me. I give this triple S. I give this a Splatceptional.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Wow.
Well, here's the thing about my rating. I've watched every episode of this reboot season, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
I have the CW app. And while, your mileage may vary with the different temple runs and the different teams, because there are some people who did make it all the way through, some people barely even got through. I just still think yours is the most memorable of the bunch out of all the ones I've watched. Like, maybe it's the nostalgia factor, or maybe it's just the fact that I can relate to you guys if I were in your shoes doing the same thing, but I'm going to give it a Splatceptional as well. I really think that everything comes together with this temple run, with the atmosphere, with everything just taking it to the next level, but not doing it in a way that takes you out of it. And while the reality TV show kind of format is a little bit cheesy, like a little bit like Survivor, Ninja Warrior, what have you, I understand that's just, due to get the show on air and to appeal to a certain audience. So I don't even really see that affecting the grade at all. So Splatceptional, it was amazing. I love this episode. I love it. If they were ever to release like a Legends of the Hidden Temple like compilation DVD or Blu-ray, like kind of how they did the Nick Gas and Game Sports kind of ones on Amazon, they should definitely do one dedicated to you guys with a 1, 2, 3 punch of these 3 episodes.
Yes,
because it would do your legacy justice.
Yeah, well, it's so crazy, isn't there? Like, it's just the fact that we're sitting here and talking to you guys, and like you're bringing that up, and like, how do we just like a couple of the most normal, like I would say loser guys, but like, we're just like we're not,
humble.
At the very
yeah.
least, hopefully humble.
Yeah, humble, normal, like nothing special about us. But like, what's like that? This weird show. My wife still does not get it. Like, I don't like understand why people care. Like it's just a random show. But the fact of like that is like so cool that we got to do it, and that's why if I'm rating it, I would I would give it an S, not the highest level, because it's like obviously like the ultimate the ultimate button on it would have been to like get out of the temple and like get the full redemption.
Right.
But I feel like I think I said to Josh, I'm like, well, it's like the fact is if we made it out of the temple, that would have signed it, put a bow on it, and there would be no chance to ever go back.
Right.
It's like, God forbid they get renewed. And it's like, now if you're going to have like a redemption, I was like, we're like the redemption of the redemption. And that's when I joke of like, it's like, I mean,
season 2, guys, it could still happen.
Right. I don't think anybody would ever want to see it. I think they've had enough of us, but the fact is like, it's still, we were like right there. Like every time it was like on my original temple run, I wasn't like right there. Josh was like at least close to touching the thing, but it kind of ended on like, but yeah, so just being so close, and then feeling like, and also it's not necessarily about the episode. I think the episode's amazing, and I've listened to it, actually, funny enough, since you guys are podcast guys, I put it in my car, and because I had a commute like home from my office, and actually just listened to it once, and I just had it on the car, and it is so much better edited than you can even give it credit for when you listen to it without watching it and just hearing it, and like just the way the interviews play in, and with the sound effects, and with like it was very thoughtfully done, and I appreciate it so much. So I might change my grade now. I'm going back to like the top tier, because I think I don't want to downgrade the grade, because they put so much good work into it. I'm just kind of wanted to, for me, it would have been nice to have actually gotten out of the temple, and it would have been great if he could have somehow secured the rights and get some of that original music in there.
Yeah.
And maybe you could do that. But show a little clip of this temple run and patch in some old school music.
Dude, that's perfect.
That's amazing, because that's why I feel like it was just like that would be like the one thing, is like just to get that original, like that original music. But besides that, man, it was like once in a lifetime. Josh, like I said, his wife was 8 months pregnant. We questioned a lot of stuff, whether we could leave work, whether we leave our family and do it. And I always said like it would be the most memorable experience of our lives. And I'm not, obviously there's other stuff in our lives that's memorable, but this is something we'll take with us forever. And I'm so glad they put it together and it came out the way it did. So yeah.
With a total disconnect to even our involvement, which is the SSS rating I'm giving it. It was the thoughtfulness put into the editing in a world where I don't view the world poorly by any means, but in reality world of TV shows where it's easy to just make someone look dumb for entertainment, or to make a mean joke or whatever, to let everything just be positive. And they had such a choice. We didn't go through anyone could be edited poorly, I guess. We were the way we were, and what you saw was the way it was, but nonetheless, they could have easily messed it up. So the SSS, like, because I do video editing too, and so we saw it from that point of view too. Just what they did with us was so sweet, because they made us like, they made us like look.
You're heroes to the Legends community.
Said, heroes, and they literally, that's what the story producer, that's what Scott Stone says. Like, we want the contestants to look like heroes, and that's one final thing, is that they Scott, it's the same thing as when he was original. Like, he had that vision for the children's show, and now for the adult version, is it's all about positivity. The whole show's supposed to be fun, and it's a hero's journey, and that's like the whole point. Is it's and it's not about like getting ratings by making people look stupid or things like that. And then one more time where I guess I have to rate it, not to be corny, but to think about getting to go back again to do it, but get to do it with your best friend.
Yeah,
like literally get to go
versus just a random person you're paired up with.
Person that you just meet, and imagine like that for something like that, like for that long. But that's to get to experience. And I know we said that kind of at the end of our episode, but it's completely true. Is like this is like a whole different level of surrealness and awesomeness.
Plus, we have something else to sell to our grandmas.
Yeah. My wife, I have.
Hopefully not that check. Give her the little like folding chair with the legends graphically imposed on it and the cooler.
Here's your cooler with the PNG of the logo.
Yep, and you keep the scooter because you've earned it.
And the best part about this too, the whole experience is that for the rest of my life, whenever you have those awkward office, tell me a fun fact about yourself. It's like we've always got this, so it's
exactly
like always in the back pocket.
So does this mean this is going to be our second perfect rating episode, the 10,000 year pearl necklace of Rama?
I think so.
You know what's interesting is that you're probably going to get a lot of feedback, a lot of blowback from it, because it's like I know there's a lot of like it's like it's kind of cool that you guys saw like the show for what it is and what it was, and so I would be interested in the comments and things like if people really like how angry people got at it, if they really gave it a shot. And I feel like the first episode they put in had a lot of like I know Scott, I know they really loved that legend that was on the very first episode, but like you said, our episode, we had there was more nostalgia piece. But I think if people will kind of watch it and give it a chance, and not that I'm touting it, I don't care. I love the original.
Yeah, just also kind of suspend their judgment and see see
it for what it is. Let it, and so it would be interesting. But to that point too, if people have questions or stuff that we didn't get into our 5 hours of talking to you, like we're happy to.
But before we wrap this up in a bow and set sail away from the temple for the night into the sunset, I've decided to make an executive decision to just throw the Think Fast to Make the Grade segment out the window. We don't got time for that. You obviously know your stuff about your own shows, so it's superfluous and extraneous. So instead, we're going to do this really, really quick audience participation segment called Guess the Artifact. And basically what I'm going to do is Alex is going to edit in a screenshot I have where I blacked out the artifact and put a question mark on it, and he's going to show it on the screen right here. And here are your clues for those of you watching on YouTube or listening at home to see if you can guess the name of the artifact from Legends of the Hidden Temple. So if you guess the correct answer of what the artifact is between episode 22 and 23 by emailing us, you might see some Splat Attack merch coming your way. So here are the 3 clues to what it could be. Clue number 1, Hop Shet Soot doesn't monkey around here. Clue number 2, an underdog victory by a pair of birds. Clue number 3, a room not fit for a king because she's secretly a queen. So you have to guess what the artifact is and what room it's in to qualify. All right, everybody, we've had a fun run through all 3 temples over the course of 30 years of Legends of the Hidden Temple history. And we are so very thankful to have our legends join us for Legends to the End, the Hidden Temple legacy of Nick and Josh. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Is there anything that you would like to plug while you're here?
We got nothing to plug. We'll replug this show. Thank you for watching. Like it's you guys doing like these awesome shows like this, and I know you're not doing it to get rich, you're not doing it for exposure, you're just doing it because you're truly passionate about the same things we're passionate about. And so like geeks like us can listen to geeks like you, and we can all geek out together, and just keep doing what you're doing, and support guys like you doing this. So
do you have anything to say, Silver Monkey? Great job, guys.
You heard it here first, folks, from the Hidden Temple monkey himself. He's
thinking. You know why they put the like when I called him effing idiot like so many times during our interview.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Well, thank you. That means a lot to us. And I know you guys have been listeners ever since we did that Nick newsreel segment in episode 9, where we did Nick's Thanksgiving Fest. And we're just happy that we're able to reach out into the internet, the far depths, to connect with fans like you, to do this no matter what episode topic we cover. And that's really what the heart of Splat Attack is about. It's not just preserving the slime-filled past, which is, the golden era of 90s Nickelodeon, but also sharing that and reliving those experiences with everyone who made it special, whether you're a fan, family member, cast, crew member, creator of a show. We've done it all so far, and we have no intentions of stopping anytime soon, as long as people continue to listen to us and support us.
Awesome. And continue to build on this community of people who just want to relive this past. So
exactly.
That's awesome.
Well, everyone, it's time to close our temple gates and say goodbye to Kirk Fogg and Cristela Alonso. Thank you so much for joining us on this Hidden Temple Legacy with Nick and Josh, who are legends to the end, truly indeed. Join us next time on Splat Attack as we head away from the temple and actually wash up ashore on a Pacific island as we do our first ever mini-series episode review of The Tomorrow People, simply titled The Origin Story. We are super excited for this because almost no one in the 90s nostalgia podcast universe covers Tomorrow People, and I'm also a very big fan of this. So we're going to have a lot to talk about, and also a very special guest that I'm sure you'll enjoy if you actually enjoy Tomorrow People. With that being said, feel free to support us any way you can, whether it's on Patreon or buying a mug or a shirt from us on our Bonfire page. You can check out more exclusive content at patreon.com/SplatAttack. And if you'd like to hear your letter or message read on a future episode, just write to us through our email, splatattack2021@gmail.com, or DM us on Instagram @SplatAttackPodcast. That way your thoughts can be heard about the 90s on a Futures Mona's mailbag segment. With that being said, Alex, will you drain the slime tank, please? I have to go grab this artifact while the 3 minutes are still ticking down.
Aye, co-captain. But watch out for the temple guard behind you. He looks a little angry.
Uh-oh. Hey guys, do you have a spare pendant you can, throw to me? I don't want to get ejected out of the temple.
Get a life of your own, pal.
Spot you later.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits.
Hard to believe, folks, but it's time to say goodbye.
Nighty-night.
Hey, check us out next time for more adventure and another great legend of the Hidden Temple.
What'll we do till then?
Chill for a couple. We'll be back. You're on, Nick.
And it was time for the superhero to move on. I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Bye-bye.
This means everything to be here with my best friend. Share these memories now. We used to have our own individual Legends memories. Now we have a shared one.
Great, man. You did great.
I'm good. Dream come true. Oh, and Kirk Fogg. Geez.
I love that you stopped. You actually stopped to shake hands with Kirk.
They come in search of a treasure. What they'll find is adventure. Nick is turning up the heat for a legendary new season. Brave heroes must master a more dangerous moat. Take on wilder temple games. Discover Olmec's mysterious legends. And search the treacherous temple rooms to finally seize the great treasure within. The adventure continues. Watch it on an all-new season of Legends of the Hidden Temple. Starts Monday at 6/5 Central, only on Nick.